You've heard it at weddings, you've slow danced beneath disco lights, murmuring the chorus like a promise. But the most famous love song of the 1980s was never a love song. It was a warning, a confession, a camera trained on the one person who didn't know they were being watched. In 1983, the Police were the biggest band in the world and also the most volatile. Their album was called Synchronicity, named after Jung's theory of meaningful coincidences. Yet inside the trio there was very little harmony. Creative tempers flared, egos collided, and at the centre stood Sting, a man in personal freefall. He had left his marriage in a blaze of tabloid scrutiny and fled to the Caribbean for quiet. There, in a borrowed house on a hill, he woke one night before dawn, stared out at the horizon and wrote a melody that felt like a lullaby and a lyric that read like a stakeout report. Every breath you take. It sounds like devotion. It's actually surveillance. I'll be watching you. Not tenderness, possession. The genius and the danger is in the disguise. The music glows, deceptively warm. The guitar figure, clean, glassy, endlessly circling, settles over a steady pulse. It feels safe, familiar, major key comfort. But underneath that soothing surface is a narrator cataloguing a lover's existence in obsessive detail. Breath, step, smile, tear. The list narrows a life down to data points. It's not romance, it's control. Sting has said as much over the years, calling the song an examination of jealousy and the urge to dominate. He wrote it at a time when love and ownership had blurred, when the world's gaze felt unblinking and merciless. He channeled that unease into a voice that never relinquishes the first person. No apology, no dialogue. Just the watcher, narrating your movements as if they're his to arrange. When the band assembled to record it, the tension didn't lift. Stuart Copeland and Sting clashed in the studio. Perfectionism fought spontaneity. Yet out of the friction came a performance that's almost clinical in its precision. Producer Hugh Padgham captured a sound that's both intimate and icy, as if you're being serenaded and interrogated at the same time. Andy Summers' chord pattern, immortal now, falls like light from blinds across a dark room. The more beautifully it plays, the more sinister the lyric becomes. Then came the video, filmed in luminous black and white by two pioneers of the music video age. The band appears in tuxedos, surrounded by smoke and stray light, the camera gliding closer, closer, a silent witness. It's performance as surveillance, beautiful men looking immaculate, while the lens does the watching for you. Even if you miss the words, the imagery whispers, "You are under observation." And yet the world chose romance. The single ruled the summer, conquering charts around the globe. Couples embraced to it. DJs dimmed the lights. The melody became a kind of cultural wallpaper, soft, omnipresent, reassuring. In the triumph, a strange irony took hold. The most controlling narrator in pop history had been hired to soundtrack commitment ceremonies. The watcher got invited to the wedding. That misreading became part of the song's power. We hear what we want to hear, especially when the music is that pretty. We excuse the unease for the comfort of a familiar chorus. We take possession and call it devotion. And once the myth sets, it lasts. Years later, when a new generation borrowed that glowing guitar for a memorial anthem, the feeling changed again. Grief softened the menace. The watcher became a mourner. The melody proved it could be anything we asked of it, except, perhaps, honest about its origins. But listen closely, and the truth is in the grammar. The pronouns never shift. There's no we. It's you and I, observed and observer. There's a line about belonging that passes for flattery until you sit with it. Belonging in this voice is not mutual. It's a claim. Context matters too. The early 1980s were a new age of seeing and being seen. CCTV cameras multiplied in cities. The Cold War kept everyone peering over shoulders. Celebrity culture exploded into a permanent spotlight. Even the band's name, The Police, now seems like an omen. This was the moment when privacy began to look old-fashioned, and the line between love and surveillance grew thin enough to hum like a wire. Inside the band, that desire to control had consequences. Synchronicity would be their greatest statement, and their last as a full studio album. Success froze into stasis. The song that sounded like intimacy isolated its creators from one another and, in a way, from their audience. They were celebrated for a feeling that the song itself was dismantling. That's the paradox at the heart of every breath you take. It made the world swoon by narrating a cage. Why does it still haunt us? Because it predicted the future. We live in a time when watching is a love language. Read receipts, location sharing, infinite scrolls of each other's lives. We consent to surveillance and call it connection. The song's narrator would thrive today without raising suspicion. He'd simply be another set of eyes in a culture that rewards attention, no matter how it's paid. And if you've ever mistaken constancy for care, you know the gravity of that error. The song speaks to the dark bargain of obsession, the relief of being noticed, the terror of being owned. The melody lifts you, the lyric locks the door. That friction is the spark that keeps the song alive. It's why the first line can make a room sigh, and the second can make your skin tighten. So the next time those opening chords ring out, resist the spell. Hear the camera shutter behind the lullaby. Remember the man on the hill writing through the night, not to promise devotion, but to confess the sickness that masquerades as love. Remember the band basking in applause for a message that was anything but sentimental. Remember that the most dangerous stories are often the ones we're most eager to believe. Because every breath you take isn't a vow, it's a vantage point. And if you stand in that gaze long enough, you'll understand what it's always been saying. Love does not watch over you like a guard. Obsession does, and it never blinks.